it was midnight. He's in his room, and we hear this, right? And luckily, his mom had the door open between the bathroom and his room to hear what was going on, and he was choking. He was dying. He was blue on. He snorted some fentanyl.
Yeah.
And so luckily we were there again, and we had Narcan, and I think we hit him with 2 shots of it.
I brought him out.
Got him, and his mom's like, take him to the hospital. I'm like, what for? He's like, there's nothing to do at this point. That we did what they would do. Yeah. Okay. And instead I took him to my mom's house, and because we had buried my brother like 10, 12 years ago. And I'm like, I didn't know. I was like 1 a.m. I woke her up and I said, we might want to, take a good look at him. How much longer he's going to be around.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to wake him up to reality. I said, tomorrow, if you want, we can go pick out your gravestone. If you want, we can go down there and see what I'm going to write on it, because that's what you're doing.
Hi, Mike. Thanks so much for coming in and sitting down and talking with me today. If you would please just introduce yourself and say what state and city you're in, city and state.
Sure. My name's Mike Giovando, Scottsdale, Arizona. Been here most of my life. Moved here in 1972 when I was 5, and so
51 years.
Pretty much a native of Arizona. Yeah.
Yeah, I only know because I'm 51 this year, so.
I'm 56.
Well, thank you so much for coming, and so I've got an opportunity to talk to a number of folks in this environment. We're at the Victory Recovery gym, essentially. And so how are you associated with this place?
I know Brock and Max Hall very well, Brock Bevel and Max Hall, who are partners and opened this place up through football. Like I said, I've known Brock's family since 1972, and I met Max in 2010 when he was playing with the Cardinals. I started working with him and training him a little bit when he was, playing in the NFL, and we became, good friends and had a really good relationship. But Brock and we go back to, many, many years ago. So our families were really close when we grew up.
Yeah. So you train football players?
I train quarterbacks. Yeah, I coach them from the NFL on down to youngsters right out of here, primarily out of Arizona.
Yeah.
It's my full-time deal. I get guys ready for the draft and the combine sometimes when when that's asked of me, but primarily just focus on training kids year round and teaching them the positions as the best I can to my ability and give them an opportunity to be good players.
Yeah. So were you a football player?
I was. I grew up and I played football and had an opportunity to play in high school, play in college a little bit. So I was a quarterback and I was also a musician. And so I kind of had to choose between the two. I did both in my early years. Had a record deal when I was 23.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't sign the deal just because I didn't like the publishing and we didn't really own the rights to the stuff. And I walked away from it. And some of the other guys, the band, I kind of split up in the band. But a lot of the guys in the band went on to be fairly successful in other groups. So good for them. And I just kind of got back into the coaching and football and that's where my life went. And coached football for almost 27 years.
Wow.
High school and junior college level. And but I've always done music. I've always in my spare time, as much time as I can, I've always still writing and recording, and I'm a singer-songwriter. So it's my passion. That's my drug, believe it or not. That's how I stay. That's what I do. That's that's how I keep my mind. You know what I mean? Like on the right path, and that gives me my relief and my joy is that part of is music.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So speaking of drugs, there seems to be a lot going on here in Arizona.
Yeah.
How much has the community here that you live in changed since you've Said you came here in 1972.
Well, yeah, I mean, you didn't really know much about that stuff when we grew up. You know, when I grew up in grade school and in high school. And I mean, yeah, obviously there was drugs around, like, you know, obviously marijuana, cocaine, things like that, you know, but the pill stuff, you know, the prescription stuff, obviously that stuff all kind of really came on strong in the late 90s and, you know, the early 2000s. I had a brother that passed away in 2011 from a overdose of Xanax and Roxycodone. He died. He was coaching with me as well. He had played, I coached him in high school. He was 29, so he's 15 years younger than me. I had coached him in junior college, an opportunity to have him coach with me when he was done playing, and we were building this training business together. But he just, he got injured, and then for the injury, they prescribed him some painkillers after a shoulder injury, and he just got hooked, and then he started to get depressed, and then, you know, got on the other stuff, the Xan, you know, all the what do you call them, the benzos, and then for about a 7-year period, it was rough, and there was about 4 or 5 times that I found him and had to get him the paramedics at the time and you get them to bring him back because you didn't have Narcan on hand back then. That wasn't like it is now. But so I've been through it with my brother. I have a sister that's 5 years younger than me that early on in high school became addicted to drugs and spent most of her adult life addicted to crystal meth. And been to rehab 13 times. And but she's been almost 6 years clean now, straight clean with nothing. You know, so I've seen it all.
Was there something that sort of set her on the path to getting clean?
I think she just kind of got tired of, you know, not having a relationship with. She has 4 kids. She was in high school. She just out of high school. She had her first son, and you know, never really had a great relationship there because of, you know, the addiction and stuff. She's a great basketball player. All my family's very athletic. My brother played football at University of Arizona, had a scholarship to play quarterback there. My sister was a great basketball player, but just she couldn't kick the you know, those demons, you know. And I think it started early on for her childhood because she had a traumatic experience with an elderly neighbor guy that I think took advantage of her, and that's probably what set her off as a young kid, and that's kind of probably what led to all the things that she did. You know what I'm saying? Just trying to forget about, you know, and the hurt and trying to, you know, overcome those, you know, those things that happened to her as a child, you know, which is a lot of times what you're dealing with. You're going back clear to childhood, and that's why you're doing some of the things you're doing as an adult. You know, you don't really realize it at the time, but I've learned that, you know what I mean? So, so I've seen, and then of course I have a son, he's 23 now, 22, 23. And, he got kind of screwed up on the same stuff. He had a medical condition where he had to get some prescribed some painkillers, and it was a pretty serious, you know, he had a serious thing going on in his groin area it was just some crazy weird deal. He was in a lot of pain. So once the prescription ran out and he couldn't get it anymore, you know, unbeknownst to me, he was still trying to figure out how to get it, and was getting it, you know, for probably another 3 years, at least 2 years.
Yeah.
2 or 3 years.
How old was he when that happened?
Probably 18, 19.
Okay.
When we had to take him to the doctor and try to find out what was going on.
Yeah.
And so, you know, once he started feeling a little bit better, and the doctor was like, there's really not much more. I'm not going to prescribe you anything. He couldn't get what he wanted.
Do you know how long he had been on him when that happened?
No, he hadn't been on anything. I don't believe he had been on anything until we found out, you know, that he needed some help.
Right.
And then So he was probably 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
I think messing around with the stuff that I didn't really know.
Oh,
Be honest with you.
Yeah.
I knew he liked to, I knew he would smoke marijuana once in a, I'd get, I know I'm not stupid, right?
Yeah.
But I can live with that a little bit here and there, but it's not really, I wish you don't need to do anything if you can help it.
Yeah.
I think it's all just going to kind of
lead you in the same direction.
lead you in a bad path, but, cause I'll be honest, I grew up, never drank, never did drugs, never did nothing.
And you never even had a desire to do it.
Never.
What do you think contributed to that? Because it's almost
It
abnormal. It seems.
It wasn't.
Right?
I never saw it in my house.
Okay.
My parents didn't. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
my mom didn't. My dad didn't. My parents grew. My dad grew up Catholic, so my grandparents smoked and drank wine. All that kind of stuff, and then they all
the Catholic stuff.
They all died from cancer and emphysema, and I just saw a lot of things. You know what I mean? And then in high school too, we had a couple kids that I knew in high school that when I was a junior, I want to say I was a junior, a kid we had, a really good friend of ours that we knew, he drowned at a party. I was lifting weights at night. We were at my one buddy's house next door to the house where the party was going on. We were lifting and training. These guys were having a party. It got real quiet, and then all of a sudden, everybody kind of went in, and then everybody came back out, and one of our friends had drowned in the pool, like got passed out and drowned. Yeah. I didn't know. I looked over the fence, and I was like, oh my gosh, so
yeah.
It just never made much sense to me, like what could happen I like to know what I'm doing.
How abnormal was that? I mean, even when you were
I just hung around.
There.
I just had friends. I had like 3 or 4 guys that thought the same way I did.
Really?
Yeah, just a couple of cats like that I ran around.
Yeah.
I was the quarterback of my high school and all that kind of stuff. I mean, people, but I never ran around. Never ran around with those guys, and they respected me enough too, that if I did go somewhere, they'd get me a Sprite or something. They'd get me, Coke or something. They knew I wasn't gonna.
Yeah.
They would tempt you and tease you and try to get you to. But I'm just like, I'm not doing it. I don't want to not know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I'm kind of a control freak, I guess would be and some people control things in different ways, you know what I mean? But I was just like, I want to know what I'm doing. Yeah. So I mean, I saw it a lot and I understood it. And, and the thing that killed me the most was when they had our buddy's funeral. They all ended up back at that same house again, like drinking.
Doing the same thing.
I'm like, how disrespect? That just rubbed me the wrong way. You know what I'm saying? I'm like that doesn't make sense. Your buddy just
died doing that,
and then you're back.
And now you're celebrating him by doing the same thing.
Just so there's just little things in life like that kind of hit me. You know what I mean? I'm just like, Now, did that mean that I didn't like people that did that stuff? I mean, no. I mean, I got a line. I get it. I mean, and don't judge and. I don't think I'm better than anybody or anything like that. I just kind of found other outlets, if that makes sense. Makes any sense. My outlets were different outlets than that. So, so when I've had to. The other thing I forget to mention too is I have a daughter that's 24, and she's been out of rehab for alcohol and mental health as well. And this happened.
So you have 2 kids?
I have 2 kids, and they've
both struggled with the problems.
Both struggled with a lot of problems, and so it's not just my son, but my daughter. She's been doing pretty good the last couple of years. She's really been working hard at it, and more than anything, I think it's a lot of mental health that drives drives people to do things when their mind's not right, and they don't feel good about themselves, and they don't think they're gonna make it and be anything, and there you go. Well, this makes me feel better for a little while, so I do this. But
how much do you think society has changed over the number of years to influence sort of those kind of self-defeating thoughts in our young people these days?
It's crazy, I mean, like it's just the access you have to everything, You know what I'm saying? And people can influence people to be so many different things. I mean, like, I've had to deal with the cutting as well with both my kids.
Yeah.
You know, and you see some celebrities here and there talking about, you know, doing it, and you know what I'm saying? And you're just like, you know, and they're just passing on some bad information. You know what I mean? Because I've seen it. I'm like, yeah, like I said, both my kids have harmed themselves, and you know what I mean, and done some just goofy things to them, you know, themselves. And I try to understand, but you know, you can't always, you know, that's why I don't tell people like, oh, you can't tell someone, oh, they're just stupid. They're just, you don't know what happened to them when they were young, or, you know, most people that are screwed up got screwed up because they were screwed up when they were a kid from somebody that screwed them up.
Yeah.
And that person that screwed them up was screwed up as a kid from somebody else. It's just getting passed on.
It's generational curses, right?
It is. I mean, you don't wake up one day and go, this is what I want to do.
Yeah, I want to just screw my life up.
You don't want to do that. I don't believe people are, you know, that's the first, and that little baby, that's, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's.
I aspire to be a drug addict, homeless on the streets, losing my limbs when I grow up.
Nobody wants to do that, and that's why, you know, you can't judge people, man. When I see people on the streets and stuff like that, I'm like, I'd like to know their story.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, something happened. You know, I wake up every day going, as bad as I think things can happen in my life sometimes, and you know, here or there, but you always can just take a peek across the street somewhere and go, I ain't like, wow, that guy's got way worse than I do.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, as bad as you think you got it, you got it that bad.
There's always somebody.
You know, somebody's got it worse somewhere. But I'm 56, and it takes a long time to get to that thought process. You know what I mean?
It does. It does.
And it took me a long time to kind of,
Me too.
you know, figure all that out. And I understand why my kids can't quite figure that out yet, because they're still
babies.
They're not there yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't have that capacity yet.
That's where we get the opportunity to give grace, right? And I feel like grace isn't always something we understand.
Yeah.
But it does sound like you've had some rational thoughts and perspectives for a very long time, which probably set you apart to be able to see things a little differently.
I'm just lucky. that I never started.
Well, that is the truth. I think that the percentage of people, it's comparisons, right, with the people that were probably populating the next door neighbor's house in connection with the very small group of you who were choosing not to. And I think that our percentages probably are reflective of that in society here.
Yeah, and people will see you as the quarterback and the jock and the musician and the singer, and there's like, there's no way you didn't do any of that stuff.
Yeah,
I didn't. You know, I just, there's another thing. Don't judge a book by its cover either.
That is
a
fact.
I mean, sometimes. Like I said, I got my thrills off of, I got my endorphins out of, being in a band and writing music and whatever that was, coaching football and calling plays, and you know what I'm saying, and things. That's what, if I didn't have that though, there's a good chance.
Oh yeah.
I might have been out trying to figure out how to make myself, happy.
Yeah.
Or feel better at times. You know what I'm saying? If I didn't have that. And like I said, the biggest benefit of all is that I didn't grow up with any of that in my house. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And my dad used to say, like, to me, because some of the, when he would coach, and some of the younger coaches would go to a strip club or do, just do what guys do. And he's married and has kids, and he would never go. And he goes, I don't go. And I'm like, why? He goes, because every time they asked me if I'd want to go, I'd just imagine if you guys were standing by the door before I walked in the club. I couldn't walk in the club.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing with, like, maybe doing this or doing that to yourself. Like, if you were standing right there, would you do it? You know what I mean? And so that's kind of how I've always thought about the same thing. Like, I wouldn't want to do anything that would, my kids would be like, oh man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'm not perfect, believe me.
Okay.
No, I got my issues out. I say bad words. I always tell people I don't drink, I don't smoke, but I like to say bad words sometimes. I'm pretty good at it, but I guess that's my But you know, so I mean,
That's my problem. And I also jaywalk and I speed. So
yeah,
there's that.
Yeah, I mean, we all have something, but you know, the biggest thing that's the way that you know with Brock was and Max getting back to being here with them is my son was struggling. It was around Christmas time last year.
Yeah.
And he was so what the problem was he would take.
When did you become aware that he actually had a problem?
December of 2022.
Okay.
Right around Christmas.
Okay.
He had a girlfriend that during COVID, her family lost their house and all this kind of stuff, and we kind of felt bad for her, and we kind of let her come in.
Yeah.
Not realizing she was bringing in a lot of her own issues, and had a lot of prescription drugs, and she had a lot of mental issues that she was dealing with, and so she was prescribed a lot of stuff, and I think that's what he kind of got, kind of introduced to some stuff from that as well.
Yeah.
And she was a really quiet, like a little church mouse. You wouldn't think she would harm anybody, but I look back on it now and I'm just like, that was a bad move on my part, letting her be in there for all that time. You know what I mean? Because I didn't know the extent of what was going on.
Yeah.
Because I'm not there every 24 hours a day. I got to do stuff. And so she had lived with us for almost a year.
Yeah.
And then it was around Christmas time in 22, my son had an episode. And what problem, he can't drink. So when he would drink, he's just angry, like the most angriest, like just hateful.
Yeah.
Like fentanyl, I wouldn't really know if he was on or not, other than you'd kind of be lethargic, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I knew when he was drinking.
Yeah.
Because he was, you could just tell, you know what I mean? And he was just destructive to himself, harmed himself, did a lot, and it always kind of came back to him and her having fights, and they shouldn't have been in the same house, you know what I mean? You can't have. I always used to make a joke, and I don't mean it to be like having Sid and Nancy. I was like, I got Sid and Nancy in here from the sex, that I was just like, I would go in the room sometimes, and that's when I really started to realize it, and they'd both be kind of passed out, like, I'm like, all right, something's not right.
Yeah.
And I'd yell at him and try to get him up, and they'd lie, and I knew I needed to get rid of her at some point because she needed to go deal with it herself, but I knew once that happened, he'd lose his mind. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, so it's kind of like I should have just dealt with it sooner. But what happened was that Christmas, when this all started, he started really hurting himself, and we had to call the police just to get him to stop doing it. And I thought they were going to freaking take him to the hospital or something because he was, he needed to be evaluated. Yeah. They arrested him and charged him with domestic violence. I'm like, domestic violence against who? Himself? Yeah. So I got an issue with them. Okay. Yeah. We were able to get that all squared away, but, so I kind of now know, don't call the police. You know what I mean? Like, so, but I didn't know what to do. It's 1 a.m. You know what I mean? He's like, so he goes and he comes home, and he looks bad. Yeah. He looks terrible. And that's when I called Brock the next day. Yeah. I said, I need your guys' help. I don't know what's going on. Yeah. So we brought him in here, and he kind of agreed to do it. I don't know how, and we started to get him here, and it just what, and he would come, but I don't know if he was buying into what these guys were. Right. We're doing it, and he wasn't being honest about what he was taking either. He wasn't telling us that he was doing fentanyl, and he admitted to like benzos and Xanax and and drinking and stuff like that, but he never really admitted to the fentanyl. Yeah. And then this probably happened in April. I know it was April of last year. It was a Sunday. I'm training quarterbacks, and his mom calls me from the house and says, "Hey, Paul just had a major seizure in his room. Paramedics came, and they just took him to the hospital." And I'm like, what? And so the girlfriend was there trying to run interference, and you know what I mean, like in
So she didn't caught with anything, maybe? Or?
yeah, trying to run interference, telling the paramedics he fell and hit his head and this kind of stuff and this and that. But he goes to the hospital. He comes back like 2 days later, and he's still not. And when he didn't come directly, we didn't bring him directly home. His girlfriend like got him an Uber and took him out somewhere. And when he came home, he was like having a seizure. And he was just doing weird, like he was back on, you know, there was some sort of drug that he was on.
Yeah.
It was, I got video of all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Just we would film it. I could film it so I could show him, like, this was you. Yeah. You know what I mean? This is what you're doing. And so that, but then it lays still lying, oh, you know, I'm kind of coming off of what they gave me at the hospital and this, you know what I mean? And just kind of making stuff up. And then I want to say, I threw her out. That's when I threw her out. I threw her out that day that happened. When he had this first seizure, I said, you got to go. Yeah. You're gone. So when he came home and she wasn't there, like, you know, like not going to be there anymore, and he kind of came out of his funk, that's when he realized, oh, she's not, and they got real mad. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. He got real mad, and that's probably when he started, you know, and he was getting the stuff. I found out that the dealer lived right down the street from me. I found out who he was, but we didn't find this out until a little bit later. But so he was lying the whole time. I guess he told the hospital that he did take some benzos, and so he was the hospital says he was probably having like withdrawals. Oh yeah, and that's why he had the seizure or whatever. Yeah. But when I threw her out, it just kind of got worse. Yeah. I would bring him here, but it wasn't getting any better. Yeah. And then, and he had a job, and he was trying to do his, you know, he worked, and you know, the drinking was still going on. I would walk in the room at night, I'd smell the alcohol. I'm like, dude, you can't do that. You can't do this. You don't know, your brain can't, you know what I mean? And yeah. Oh, I'm just so depressed, and you know, I get it. But the capper was when this kind of all came to a big time deal was he had an appointment to be here at Victory Recovery at 9 a.m, where we're going to do some work with Max and Brock. So he didn't really drive here. He had a license, but I was driving, and I'm glad I did, because who knows what he was on. So I go in, I set my alarm at 8 o'clock in the morning, because I'm going to make sure he's up and ready to go. And I walk through the bathroom door to walk into his room, and before I could open the door, I hear, boom. And then I'm like, what happened? And I open the door, and he's on the ground. His head's like this. He's blood everywhere, just blood coming everywhere. I thought he cut his throat. I didn't know what he did. Yeah. I pick up the phone. I'm holding his head. I call Brock, literally call him on the phone. I'm like, what do I do? And I said, I think he's dying. Yeah. I think he's dying. He's like, I go, I think he's having a seizure though. So I just hold his head. So I'm trying to keep his head up, so because he's gargling, you know, I'm trying to get him to not choke on. He would have been dead. Yeah. If I didn't walk in there at 8 o'clock, if I would have just hit snooze for 5 minutes, he's dead. I'm telling you. And we call it, obviously, the paramedics. They take him to the hospital. I go to the hospital to get him. The nurse, I guess the same nurse that worked on him before was the same nurse again. She kind of filled me in a little bit more. But while he was at the hospital that day, we started roaming through his room. We found the M30s, the blue fentanyl pills, and of course he lied and said, I don't take them, and that's the first time, and you know, blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah, right, you know. So brought him here to see Brock and Max, and they called a rehab center down the street from here, and we got him in there. And in 21 days, his insurance ran out, and they didn't even call me to see if I would extend, because we would have took care of it. They just let him out. And so, with no plan.
Yeah.
And so I was like,
So that's a treatment center?
it was a treatment center. I'm not going to name names.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not
No,
gonna
it's
say
fine.
anything like that. But
Well, I think just identifying that a treatment center.
I was a little disappointed,
Yeah.
in that. And we never had any really communication with them or anything like that. And so when he got out, he wasn't better. 2 days later, I walked in his room and he's drinking again. I'm like, Paul, you can't do this.
Well,
You can't do this. And so another friend of mine, I want to say it was probably within a week. It was midnight. He's in his room, and we hear this, right? And luckily, his mom had the door open between the bathroom and his room to hear what was going on, and he was choking. He was dying. He was blue on. He snorted some fentanyl.
yeah.
And so luckily we were there again, and we had Narcan, and I think we hit him with 2 shots of it.
I brought him out.
Got him, and his mom's like, take him to the hospital. I'm like, what for? He's like, there's nothing to do at this point. That we did what they would do,
Yeah.
okay? And instead I took him to my mom's house, and because we'd buried my brother like 10, 12 years ago, and I'm like, I didn't know. I was like 1 a.m. I woke her up and I said, we might want to, take a good look at him. You don't know how much longer he's going to be around.
Yeah.
Just trying to wake him up to reality. I said, tomorrow, if you want, we can go pick out your gravestone. If you want, we can go down there and see what I'm going to write on it, because that's what you're doing. I just had it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And, I knew he was, so what I came to find out is he was kind of bad-mouthed. He was, on his Instagram, he was saying that rehab was a joke and it didn't help. So I'm like, I'm not doing that again. I'm gonna go spend money to put you in somewhere that you're not invested in, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we went through his whole room again and we didn't find anything. We turned it upside down. But I have a good friend of mine that's like, hey, you know what? Here's what I did. And he wasn't addicted to fentanyl or anything. He goes, but he showed me this story about this basketball player named Lamar Odom, who was addicted, played for the Lakers, was addicted to everything and did ketamine.
Oh, yeah.
And it starts with a B. It's not ayahuasca, but it's a different one. Yeah. But he goes, you know what? If you want, I will get him some ketamine. We'll try some ketamine treatments for him and see if that's. And I think my son liked the idea of that because it's drugs.
Because it's drugs, right?
Right? And so, but I was willing.
Well, and he's in his addiction.
And I was willing to be like, okay, let's.
Yeah.
So when we go there to set this all up, and we meet the guy, and beautiful place, nice place, you know what I mean? And it's not cheap. This guy spent some money to set this up for my son. I think it was like $700 a dose. And he did like 10 of them.
Yeah.
Okay? And so problem was, he was still doing fentanyl.
Yeah.
So this is doing nothing.
Yeah.
Because he was like, this cat wasn't doing anything because the fentanyl was blocking the whatever else was going, but we didn't know he was doing it still.
Yeah.
And so, we go through all of this. I kind of find out, we'll kind of figure out where his drug dealer is. We get his phone and figure out there's drug dealers just down the street, and he's probably putting stuff in the mailbox, and you know what I mean, and all this stuff. And so that's when I called my sister, who's lives in Wyoming now. She lives in Gillette, Wyoming, and her son, who's the same age as my son, was playing football at Washington State 3 years ago. 2 years ago, he's a defensive end. He's
WSU?
WSU.
Oh, okay.
His name's Justin Lorenz. Big kid, had an opportunity to play there play there, and COVID came, and it kind of screwed up that season, and he was living with the quarterback there at that time, and just wasn't a lot to do. And my nephew kind of suffers from mental, how that kind of runs in my family, obviously, and so he started screwing up and grades slipping, and ends up kind of losing his scholarship at Washington State, goes back to live with his dad. And he's not doing much better. And his dad's like, you know what? You're gonna go live with your mom in Wyoming, and you can go stay with Jenny for 8 months. And her name's Jenny. And she'll you see how you like that. She's not going to tolerate, you're going to have to, grow up. And she lives in Gillette, Wyoming. She works at a Perk. I mean, it's just a small town deal, you know what I mean? And so my nephew went up there and lived with her and washed dishes, had a regimen, had to do this, and this, and that. And he had ballooned up to like 320 pounds when he was like 250 when he played. But within like 9 months, he had gotten back to where he was like doing really well, went back to live with his dad in Oklahoma. Now he's playing defensive end for Tulsa, University of Tulsa. So she kind of did the sober living, if that makes any sense. We skipped the rehab and went to the sober living with what he did with my sister.
Yeah.
So he had called me and told me his story, like, I'm doing good, I'm doing good, Uncle Mike, I feel everything's going well. It's kind of I told him about Paul. He's like, he needs to go stay with Jenny.
Send my mom. Yeah.
Just go stay with Jenny.
Yeah.
I call my sister. I'm like, you out? Because I don't know what to do. She's like, yeah, but here's the deal. I got rules and this and that and it's not going to be easy and he's not going to like it. And, I'm saying, I don't care. He didn't have a choice. Yeah. Because he ain't staying here anymore.
Yeah.
And so end of June of 2023, just this year, I sent him up there. Yeah. And it was, when he got up there, he was still doing fentanyl. Because when he got off the plane, she's like, I knew he wasn't right. She called me, she's like, he's still doing drugs. And I'm like, I'm not surprised, but we thought we had found everything, you know what I mean? Yeah. And if you tried to do a drug test on him, he would go cut himself, like he would just control the situation. It's like, okay, do I want him to cut himself up or do I want him to pee in a cup? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like he had me on that one, you know what I mean? So I couldn't really I knew something wasn't right though, right? I knew he's lying because that's all you do is you lie. You're just a liar. You spend your whole career lying when you're when you're doing that stuff. But once he got up there, she detoxed him. So he had about a week of coming off of
straight cold turkey.
Yeah.
I love her.
And it actually happened at my house one time. And he told, it happened in between the ketamine, right before the ketamine stuff. It had happened and he was like, I got a stomach flu, I'm sick. No. Now I realize he was in the shower every 2 minutes. Like he was coming, he didn't have any fentanyl or something. Like he had, you know what I mean? He was coming off something. Yeah. So I think that's pretty sure what it was. And he was able to get more. Yeah. So when he went up there and ran out, it happened again.
Nowhere to get any more.
And he was pissed. He wanted to come home. You're not coming home. You know what I mean? And it was a good month where we weren't sure if he was going to make the grade. Okay. Yeah. And so he gets through August, still not happy. He's calling me, he's mad. Gets beginning of September. I go to Switzerland in September to run a quarterback camp every year. And 2 days before that, my sister calls me. It's like, Mike, I had to call the police. I'm like, what happened? She's like, he just went berserk. Like he started, cutting himself. She goes, he was drunk. He's not doing anything because she was testing him. So he's off the fentanyl. Yeah. But I'm telling you, the alcohol is just as bad, probably worse. Yeah. And so he would get belligerent and drunk and, you know what I'm saying? And just whatever he could get his hands on. And he was doing that. And so my sister they put him in the in the psych ward of the hospital for 2 days. Yeah. And when he got out, he called me. He's mad. I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go here. I want to go there. I said, you know what, bro? Here's the deal. You're not going to screw this trip up for me. Yeah. Because this guy that plans this every year brings me out here. He's going to lose tons of money if I don't come out. Yeah. I said, so you're not going to do, because he knows the guy that does it. Our buddy in Switzerland. And he likes Robin, and Robin likes Paul. That's my Swiss. And I said, you're not screwing this up for him. So here's the deal. You're going to act right for a week. When I'm gone for that week, I better not see one text message. Or I said, and then when I get back, you better have your plan written out of where we're going and what we're doing. You better have a plan. Or we're putting you in rehab up there. And there was a place up there in Wyoming that had a 45-day deal. I said, and you're going there. He didn't want to go to rehab. And I said, so you better have a plan. So for that whole week I'm in Switzerland, I didn't really enjoy myself. I'm always looking at my phone going, wait for what's going to happen. He'd just been in the mental deal for 2 days before I went. Sure as heck when I came home that Tuesday night, phone rings, it's him. It's like, Jenny said I could stay. I want to stay. I'm gonna figure this out. I'm like, right on. He goes, yeah, I just, and then I said, okay, cool. I go, you got a plan? He's like, yeah. But the good thing that he had done up there, though, I give him some credit. He never drove here, so he was learning to drive. He was driving. My sister was making him drive places, and
Yeah.
he's in an intense IOP program.
Good.
Up there. He'd been in that.
Yeah.
Still is. He's working full time at was working at Perkins, had a job, had to get up, had to be there. My sister got him a job there, so he's prepping food. So he's got a plan. His days are planned out.
Yeah.
So, but he's still trying to, would have some slip ups here and there in between, but probably had a few compared to what he'd have been dead if he stayed here.
Yeah.
I'm sure he would have.
Yeah.
And so, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, my sister's like, he needs a car. We need to get him a car. It's getting cold up here. I can't share my car all the time. And so bought him his own car so he can, so now he's got a car. He's got, he's not out of the woods, by any means. But I talked to him 2 nights ago. I went to a concert and said, I'm at this concert. And, but he's like, I'm doing good. I'm good. Everything's good. I got him, just think he's doing all right.
Yeah. How does that make you feel?
Oh, it's a relief. You know what I mean?
Still checking your phone all the time?
No, I mean, it's funny. I was always waiting for a lot of people are pulling for him down here. I got a lot of people that want to see him do well. And I don't want to jinx it. Someone was like, he's doing good, and you're almost afraid to say that sometimes because you're waiting for
the other shoe to drop.
But I mean, I have that talk with him all the time. And when he got that bill from the hospital, luckily his insurance covered it. But when he got that 2-night stay and it was $7,000,
Yeah.
I was like, hey, bro, everything has a consequence. So you want to chop yourself up and mark yourself up and get mad and be drunk and be mean and act out? It just cost you $7,000.
Yeah.
Because at the time I wasn't going to pay for it. Luckily
Yeah.
his insurance covered it. And I said, everything you do, there's going to be something that's a consequence from that. So
Yeah.
every time I talk to him, I'm like, remember, you don't want that. We always talk about, you ain't doing that anymore because you just saw what, you don't have $7,000. What are you going to do? You want your credit run for the rest of your life? He's starting to understand now a little
Yeah.
bit more. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Because when you're living in my house, everything's taken care of.
Right. No consequence.
You got your food, you got your drink, you got whatever you want. You know what I mean? The air is on. You're right. Yeah. The water turns on every time you turn it on. They have no idea what I have to do to keep, 3 dogs and 4 adults going, just on a daily basis, let alone a yearly basis, what that costs and what that takes and how hard somebody has to work. You know what I mean? They just take it for granted. People, you know what I mean? And so I think he's learning a little bit more, like, I can't really, and he's paying for his own car insurance up there, with his stuff. I think he's paid for his IOP. I help him with some rent I help my sister, obviously. She's doing miracles and which funny, she's OCD, like horrible OCD. Like, so she wears him out. Oh, clean up your room. She'll text me like 6 week in advance. Rent's due on the 1st. I'm like, Jenny, I know. And she'll text me and say, rent's due on the 1st. It's like she's nuts. So I think it's funny he's kind of having a deal with that because
might help him create some new patterns.
Because he has to do stuff or she's going to drive you insane.
Yeah. So it's the easier, softer way to just comply.
Because I couldn't get him to, sometimes why do kids, I train quarterbacks whose dads were quarterbacks. Why do they send them to me? Because they're
Well,
not
because
going
they're not gonna do it for
They're not
them.
going to do it for them.
My kids won't do anything for me.
My mom was a piano teacher when I was 7 years old.
Did you do what your mom wanted you to do?
My mom wouldn't let me take piano lessons from her.
No,
She goes, you're
because you
not
wouldn't
taking them
listen.
from me. You're not going to practice. You're not going to do what you do. And she sent me down the street to this other lady.
Yeah.
And then when I didn't do what I would do, you know, that lady would send me home, and you know, and my mom and dad would be up $25 or something like that. And then I started to realize, okay,
Yeah.
you know, like I get it now, you know, because you can't, like what sometimes it just
I
takes.
told my kid recently that she can't work for me. She goes, you should just hire me. I'm like, no. I said, because you're not going to be a smart mouth and then think that the staff that are actually being paid by me are going to treat me that same way. Ain't happening. But
No, you get it. Like sometimes that's why there are, you know, places people, and I'm not saying rehab don't help people. I'm sure they do. You know what I'm saying? I mean, help my daughter.
yeah.
My son, it wasn't for my
Sometimes
son.
all it takes is that separation from the destructive path.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a little more that needs to happen.
Right.
We need to reconstruct the patterns.
Right.
And we as parents, it's the same thing. A lot of my friends, and I come from hell, and so a lot of my friends that I hung out with in hell look at my kids and they're like, dude, we've never seen anybody punk you, but your kids? I'm like, yeah, we're not talking about that. Because I have no jurisdiction in the home.
I know it's
So I get it.
Yeah, it's because I don't want to fly off the handle and do something.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Because I have too much going on to where I can't afford to screw anything.
I'm not interested in going to jail.
Yeah, and they don't understand that. Like you guys can wreck everything if you want. If you push me to the point where, because what had happened is once I snap, all of this is gone.
Yeah.
Everything is gone because you know what I mean.
Everything.
You can't do it.
I get it.
And so I have to walk away. I had to walk away sometimes. I had to go outside and bite my lip, and you know what I'm saying, and just I don't know what to do. So all these things that happened though, it had to happen.
Yeah.
You know, my brother dying. I mean, I wish we could have controlled that. But
Unfortunately, sometimes things were left up to their choice.
he was in a lot of mental, you know, I was looking, me and my mom looked at it. Me and my mom prepared for it more than my dad. My dad would want to ignore it. Me and my mom were the ones that would take care of my brother quite a bit and try, you know, he was with me all the time. But I don't know what it's like to wake up every day and in my head telling me I'm a piece of garbage and I suck. And, you know, I don't wake up with that. You know, I wake up frustrated here and there. But, you know, when he passed away, my mom was like, she found him it was a Friday morning. I went in, he'd missed football practice that day, coaching, because he told my mom he was going to go get a job interview where he really went and got pills. And so she called me up and I went over to the house. This is in 2011 of April. And I walked in there. I'm like, I go, where is he? She goes, he's in there. He's passed out, you know. And no, you know, that the mouth open deal. And I thought he was dead. I'm like shaking him. I'm like, Brian, get up. He gets up and same old lie stuff. Oh, that's what you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know, I'll just leave it with this is got him up and sat there till midnight at my house, at my mom's house with him and saying, you can't do this. I'm counting on you. Kids are counting on you. You know, I won't do it anymore. I promise. I'll throw the rest of the pills away and blah, blah, blah. It's like midnight. I remember he's sitting there eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and a white T-shirt. And I said, all right, I'll pick you up tomorrow at 1. We got the weight room for the team. It's like, okay. And so about 8 o'clock in the morning, the next day I called my mom. It's off the hook. Phone's off the hook. Someone used to use a landline a little bit. My parents did at least. My dad would take it. My dad was a football coach in a college, a top college. And so Fridays he would want to sleep and he would take the phone off the hook. And I only live a half mile from my parents. But it was busy. So I go, that's probably my dad. Took it off. It's just 8 in the morning. I'm not going to. So about 3 hours later, I come and check my cell phone, missed call, and call my mom. She's like, Mike? I'm like, yeah. She's like, Brian died. I'm like, what? She goes, yeah, Brian. It's like 11:30. I'm like, I don't know what to say. I'm like, what? She's like, Brian. And she's like totally like, not sobbing. You can hear my dad in the background though, wailing, right? Me and my mom had kind of knew when we saved him like 5 times, you know. And so, but it's still, you're like, you don't know, yeah, what do you do? You know what I mean? I'm like, so I go down there, and you can't go in the room because when you die in your house like that, they have to treat it as like a crime scene or something like that. You know, they gotta tape it off and to make, you know what I mean? Kind of, it's whatever. And so, I talked to my mom. I'm like, she kind of tells me, she goes, yeah, I went in at about 11:30 to see why he wasn't up yet. She goes, I walked in and I touched him and he was cold. And I'm like, I called at 8 o'clock. Why'd you guys have the phone off the hook?
Yeah.
Because I thought, like, if they didn't have the phone off, because I was going to say, I always would call in the morning when I knew something bad was going to happen, or when I felt like something bad could happen, I'd be like, go check on Brian. You know what I mean? Like, I would call. So for a moment there, I felt like I could have just got in the car and drove down the street. So I'm feeling like I could have saved him.
He was probably already gone.
He was already gone. But the thing she said to me, she goes, you know what, though? She goes, when I walked in his room, he finally looked at peace.
He wasn't tormented anymore.
You know, and so you got to look at that as like, it's a selfish deal because you miss him.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want him to be gone, but you're also not in their skin, in their brain, you know, and he didn't do it on purpose. He just mixed the Xanax with what he had already had, and that stopped however that worked. Respiratory.
Yeah.
And he's just probably trying to go to sleep. He couldn't go to sleep. He could take like 10 Xanax, wouldn't do anything. You know, he got to that point where he's one of those guys, you know what I mean? And but I just don't want to bury my son yet.
Yeah.
Not yet. You know what I mean? I don't want to go through that again.
Yeah.
I don't want to put his mom through it. I don't want to put anybody through it. I don't want to bury my daughter. I want to bury anybody. I need to go before they go.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not supposed to live longer than
let's get that straight. You know what I'm saying? Like I'd give it up as long as they could, have a life. I've done a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I've been around the world. I got to do stuff that most people don't get to do. I'm not a rich man, but I'm rich in a lot of ways that I got to do and experience a lot of things that, people that have all kinds of stuff never got to experience. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So I think there's more to experience, obviously. Yeah. I'd be like, hey, I'm good. As long as you take me, because I've had a pretty good run, you know what I mean? But so that's what I've, been through in these 56 years and, seen it. I've had, obviously, I told you about my nephew. I'd have my another sister whose son was addicted to heroin. Yeah. And now he has one of those permanent things in his arm, like a chip that's where it blocks the opiate deal. I forget what it's called, but he actually has something in his arm, and he's doing great now once they got that in there. And he doesn't, it's probably like Suboxone, or whatever they call that stuff, but I forget the name. It's an actual like he has to go get it every 2 years or something, has to get it replaced. But so not just me, I mean, I've had a couple sisters who've had kids and had to deal with it, the whole family. Yeah. And I'm not different than a lot of families. Yeah. A lot of family. I told my parents, you got 6 kids, about 5 of them or 4 of them are probably screwed up. The less you have, the better chance you have of, you know what I mean? Of, not to say, that's not true. I just always make a joke. But I mean, I had 2 and, they still, found a way to. But it's a tough world. I wouldn't want to live in this world.
Yeah, I think they're dealing with a lot of different.
I wouldn't want to grow up in this.
Me neither.
In this me world. Look at me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a world of insecurity right now and fear.
Looking for likes and clicks and, you know what I mean? And
temporary illusions.
It's just going to go away.
It is.
You know, it's
Very superficial world we live in.
it's just going to go away. So, you know, I just, you know, I feel for anybody who's, you know, had to deal with this.
There are a lot of people dealing with it right now.
Yeah.
A lot. We have a lot of folks losing their kids.
I get it. I understand.
If you could share a message with anybody out there struggling, families with children that are struggling and people that are struggling, what would that message be?
I mean, I coach football, and sometimes, you know, somebody asks me, what are we going to, how are we going to pull this out? Or, you know, and how are we going to make this whatever it effing takes?
Yeah.
That's what you got to do. You know what I'm saying? You gotta, you know, you gotta be willing to face it yourself. Like, okay, there's something wrong here. Yeah. I got to, you know, like as a parent, like not like, I probably didn't realize it soon enough with my son, you know what I'm saying? Because they'll hide it from you sometimes. But, you know, it's, if you can, and like I said, and don't be afraid to like try as many different things as you can, and not one thing works for everybody. You know what I mean? Not one. My son really likes the IOPs, and now he hates rehab, but he likes the, you know what I mean? My daughter likes to go to the AA meetings, and, you know what I mean? She's more comfortable, you know, she likes to do, you know, she's good. And my son, that's not really his thing. He'd rather go sit one-on-one, and you know what I mean? So I think for everybody, you know, you realize, you know, everybody's got to deal with it. You got to figure out how you can deal with it. That's the best for the situation, whatever that is. And
where do you get your support from?
All the kids and families and people that I train, that I get to influence and be a part of. I turn on a Saturday football, and I got a quarterback playing at Louisville, South Carolina, West Virginia, you know, Oregon, wherever. I got kids playing all around the country. I got kids, you know what I mean? And what I mean by support is like, I know that if I don't show up every time that I go to, you know, to train kids or whatever, they're counting on me.
Yeah.
To be there. You know what I'm saying? And so by me going there, they give me back what I need. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though what I'm doing is trying to help them become a better whatever player or person or whatever, just them and their, you know, just that environment is what gives me, because now I know I'm helping people. And I don't think you don't think you can truly be happy unless you're helping people, other people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's the second time we've heard that message today, and I would absolutely agree. I'm reflecting back on the conversation when the boy died in the pool. You have a state of mind, and you had one even when you were young, where you were able to have rational conversations with yourself. And so to share that message with young people who may be tipping in that direction, like, just wrap up a nice comment where it just makes sense, like, because it made sense what you were saying then, and I don't know if what I'm saying actually makes sense right now, but what would you say to these young people to help them really sort of maybe change their thinking on that same track that you helped yourself not go down that road?
Really try and figure out what the consequences are going to be to everything that you do. As hard as that is to think of as a young person, you don't think of, when I take this drink, I could get in the car and go hit somebody, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not thinking that way. You know what I mean? Like, if I get too messed up, I could end up somewhere where I don't know, and somebody's taking advantage of me. You know what I mean? Like, if you can't control the situation, then, you know, and you want to make sure that, you know, at the end of the day, the end of the night or whatever, that you're going to get back home the way you were supposed to, then you need to really think about what can happen if you don't make a good choice. And it's not a goody two shoes thing. It's a safety thing. It's like,
well, what are my intentions in making this decision, right? Like,
right.
What do I want the outcome to be?
Like, like I got to fit in. Most everybody does what they do because they want to fit in. To, you know, they want to get, you know, fit in. You know, get in to fit in. You know, whatever you want to say. You know, they want to. They don't want anybody to think that they're square or weird or, you know, like he's not. You know, like I went to plenty of parties. I played in bands. I played in clubs and bars. I didn't drink.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I could sit there though with a couple of guys in my band would drink a beer and, you know, but good thing too is I didn't have anybody in my band that was like alcoholics or drug addicts either. And like, these guys could all, you know, they were just like, yeah, I had a beer at the end of the show and they could handle, you know, but, you know, I mean, I could sit around, you know, I wouldn't be comfortable in a crack house. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But like, I mean, you know, because
I know exactly what
I'm not saying that I can just go anywhere, but I'm saying like, I didn't have to be doing what everybody else was doing.
Right. To be okay.
Who cares? You know what I mean? It's
Because at the end of the night, you're the one that's in control of your behaviors, your consequences.
right. I mean, have I had surgery and had a pain pill in my life and stuff like that? Yeah, I've had a knee surgery and I've had a shoulder surgery, but I'm very lucky I don't have an addictive
Yeah.
deal to where once the stuff ran out for the prescription, like I'm good.
Yeah.
You know, so that's a blessing. I'm lucky like that because I've played sports. I've been beat up. I've had a lot of things happen. And of course, they give you they give you the good stuff to get you through the initial, you know, over the surgery stuff and all that. But luckily, I never, you know, I never needed more.
Yeah.
You know, talking to Max, like, you know, like that's where it started kind of with him a little bit too, is like, that runs, you know, Victory with Brock. It's like, you know, what kills me about Brock and Max is they're my heroes. They both Max had an Achilles and I think Brock had a neck, and they can't take surgeries, and they didn't take any painkillers. Amazing. Yeah. You talk about some freaking will, you know what I mean? To like, be like, if I do this, if I start this again, it might start me on
the outcome does not.
Right. Because look, do you want to go through that again? You know, I'd rather have my Achilles hurt for 2 months than do what I did for 5-10 years. I'm not doing that again.
Yeah.
But that's what it took to get there. All these things that happened to these guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you can try to figure out how that, you know, that not ever have to go through that, you're lucky.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm just fortunate, but no, like I said, if you don't grow up around it a lot, it's not in your house, and there was never alcohol in my house, or,
Yeah.
you know, there was, you know what I mean? Then you just don't.
My youngest kid wasn't raised around it, and she's not struggling like a lot of her friends.
Yeah, I mean, if you just see it's common, you know, and you're just gonna kind of just do it too, because everybody, you just do what you're a product of what your environment.
Of your environment.
That's that simple. So, yeah, I mean, I just look at my situation as being lucky.
Yeah.
That's all I can really say. You know what I mean? So, and I'm not going to start now. I'm 56. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this could have drove me to some stuff of what's been going on the last couple of years. You know, I mean, like, there's times where you're like feeling sorry for yourself, and you know, but that's when I go in and write songs, and most of my best music has all come from, and we're playing that show.
Yeah.
And if you like, you know, bands like Coldplay and U2 and Snow Patrol and that kind of sound, that's kind of what I write. And the music's gonna hit you in the face. That's how I released, you know, when my son was I swear to you, once he was in the hospital, I went in and wrote this song called Help Is On The Way within an hour of him being back in the hospital. Probably the best songs I've ever written. Yeah. You know, it's kind of like One by U2. And I'm like, where do these lyrics come from? They came from there. That's where I get my stuff from. Yeah. Like, people are like, why are your songs always kind of like this, about this kind of stuff? I'm like, that's my experience. Yeah. That's my experience. You know what I'm saying? That's my experiences. My sister, my brother, my daughter, my son. Yeah. You know what I mean? I did. That's my experience. So I guess like I said before, my drug is the writing and the you know what I mean, writing music and playing music. That's how I go. Like people are, what do you do tonight when you're done training? You go have a drink? Or I'm like, no, I go right in this. I got a music room. I go right in there, shut the door, start playing the piano, because I've played the piano my whole life, and
because of the lady down the street,
and just
grateful for her.
just let it go for. I'll be in there for hours.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but my family and my kids, they all know, like, that's where he's, that's what he's doing.
Yeah.
They kind of didn't understand it before. They'd be like, oh, you're like ignoring the family and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, no, I think I'm doing this to cope.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this is my coping deal. This is how I cope. So that's another thing you asked me, like, what would I tell somebody is like, go find another thing that you like, that you get an endorphin release on. I don't know what it is, but there's got to be something.
Yeah, for me, it's mountains.
There you go.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we all have a thing. We just have to figure out what that is, right?
Whatever. I mean, for me, it's the sauna as well. I go sit in there for 30 minutes, and when I come out, I'm like, whew, it's rough being in there, but when you come out, you're like, you know what I mean? It's like that. What is it? What can you get that feeling from? You know what I mean? And I've never had to chase that feeling that much, because I've never really been, down that road. But, so, I'm sure for other people, it's not as easy as what I'm saying, because, but I've seen people in that, have to chase the feeling.
Yeah.
And it's not anything I want to see anybody have to go through.
Yeah.
Ever. But unfortunately, just the way things are, and how easy it is to get things, your hands on stuff, and it's a shame. It's a shame, you know what I mean? It's just, but hopefully, hopefully there's a light at the end of the, at the end of the tunnel, and I just wish everybody, the best life they can have, and that's what I hope for everybody, whether you're struggling now or not or whatever, just stay in it. Well, stay in the fight. I always tell people that all the time. Stay in it to win it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I help you?
Sure. Oh. No problem.